Hey everyone, welcome to Let's Write Scripts. I'm Micah Crowdy. I'm the head of writing at Arc Studio, as it says below my name, and that's how you know it's true. The Arc Studio is the best screenwriting app in the world, by the way. It's what I use, and if you want to check it out to use it for your screenwriting, there is a link in the description below, and you can start writing for free. This is Let's Write Scripts. Today we are going to do 3 writing sprints where you can work on your script, and we'll be chatting between the sprints about screenwriting, and I'll be answering your questions about screenwriting. So if you have questions about screenwriting, you can drop them in the chat. Before we get into it, though, I want to know, where are you? What are you writing today? And how much backstory should you have in a script? So we generally start with like 2 questions. The first 2 questions, one, where are you and what are you writing today? Love seeing everyone from all over the world. And our third question is kind of our writing question, and it's how much backstory should you have in a script? I'm curious what you guys think about backstory. I'm going to chat about that in a moment. If you're feeling it, please like this video, hit subscribe, turn notifications on. And of course, during the second break, I'm going to show the sandwich of the week, which is another beautiful sandwich of the week. And if you're wondering what is the sandwich of the week, it's just the the best looking sandwich that I made this week. So yeah, excited to show y'all the sandwich of the week. So let me answer these 3 questions myself. I am in Los Angeles. It's like a hot day here. It's like 80s, I think, degrees Fahrenheit, which for those of you in centigrade or Celsius, whatever, I don't know what that means. Somewhere in the 20s, maybe. If you know, share it in the chat if you're from one of those Celsius places. And what am I working on today? I'm going to be doing some rewrites on a pilot. I finished kind of a draft and just got some small notes, some little tweaks that I'm making. So I'm going to do that in at least the first writing sprint. I might move on to another project. I don't think I have that much work to do on it today. And then, so for a writer question, how much backstory should you have in a script? I'm working on a blog post for this. I would say surprisingly little in some sense. And what I mean by that is I have a couple thoughts on backstory. And we've talked about this a little bit before on Let's Write Scripts. Backstory is only helpful in my mind for how it affects your story moving forward. There are a lot of things that you will think about when you're coming up with your story and your characters, details that you love and that you're so excited about. But just because you love them, just because you're excited about them, doesn't mean that they should be in your script. You need to sort of see the difference between what's interesting to you and what's relevant to the reader, what's exciting to the reader, what they need to know. And again, the rule of thumb on that is, how does it affect the story moving forward? And one of the ways you can do that, or one of the ways that backstory does affect things moving forward, is through what I call the internal goal of the character. I talk about external goals and internal goals a lot. The external goal is what your character wants. Oftentimes you can think of it like as a plot goal. It's the thing they're trying to accomplish, to get, etc. That's the what. The internal goal is the why. Why do they want that external goal? What is the emotional or psychological need that they have inside them that is kind of driving them to want this thing? I had a friend who described it as the hole in the soul. It's the thing, they might not even know that they have this, but it's some problem, that they're dealing with. And backstory can be helpful in kind of figuring out what that hole in the soul is, why they are who they are, kind of like what the issue is that they're dealing with. So you can see in that way, it's something from their past, or things from their past, from their backstory, that are going to affect them moving forward, because it's kind of driving them forward. But I'd just be saying, one note of caution in this, though, is be careful. Sometimes there can be a little bit of a cliche to be like, okay, this trauma happened, therefore this happened. And, like, life is not always that simple, and it can be a little cliche at times. That's not to say that people can't react to bad things that have happened to them, but just, keep in mind, how are you dealing with that issue? Or do you have something to say about it, some nuance? Because there can be a little danger there. Yeah, so that's what I'm thinking a little bit about backstory. There's also one other thing about backstory, which is that like sometimes it can be helpful to be thinking about your character, but like at some point it becomes an excuse to not actually write your script because you're just like having so much fun working on backstory and you're like coming up with this elaborate character profile and it feels like you're writing, but you're not actually writing. So there comes a moment where you're like, okay, I should probably actually be writing my script. Loving seeing everyone in the chat. Teji from San Jose, Juno in Massachusetts, Cash. So the regulars, seeing a lot of good names here. Cash in Texas, writing a short film. What did he say? Feel like I see many things have too much backstory, so I'll say only as much as necessary. Yeah, I agree with that. Less is more, only as much as necessary. Kind of at the start, it's basically another rule or thing I like to think about is just like, how much does the audience or the reader of your script need to know to understand what your characters are going through? If they need to know it to understand what the characters are going through, then it's relevant. If they don't need to know it, then maybe you can wait till later or might not even need to be there at all. Adonis, up in Canada, nice, working on his episode 2 of his pilot. A question from Kim. We can get into that later. Pam in New Mexico, going to switch gears. Yeah, how much backstory? Maybe not needed. A little bit. Kind of we're all on the same page here. I feel like Juno backstory should be included as necessary when it's crucial to understanding the current plot. Barbara in LA. Yeah. Anyone have a different take? Anyone want to stand up for backstory? I feel like we're all be like, yeah, just a little bit of backstory, which is what I agree with. But like, I don't know, if you have a different take, feel free to share that, and I'll tell you why you're wrong. No, but I would love to hear your opinion. Diane's working on a claustrophobic horror thriller draft. Backstory just enough to make sense and only if necessary. Love it. Love it. And Kim from Nashville, glad you're here. James in New Jersey, welcome back. Working on revisions to a horror movie script set in Michigan based on local lake monster legends. That's fun. Local legends are really awesome. I don't think I knew Michigan had local lake monster legends, but I guess that makes sense. There's like a lot of lakes and a big lake. Or is there, are there lakes on, I'm suddenly trying to picture the map. Are there 2 lakes on either side of Michigan? Because you have the Glove, right? There's 2 lakes, right? One on either side. James can tell me. James, what are the lakes? And are the lake monster legends based on small lakes or like on the Great Lakes? I'd love to know. Tells me, I think it's pretty genre specific for backstory. Okay, action drama probably needs more than comedy, I would think. I don't know. That's interesting. I hadn't really thought about it in terms of like genre. I feel like action movies, though, you're right in the sense that oftentimes action movie will have like a big motivating event. Whereas a comedy can also have that as well, but a comedy is more like in your life, whereas like an action movie is like something happened triggering this big thing. But even in action movies, I feel like oftentimes whatever the thing that happens is in the movie. But you're right. Oftentimes there is kind of some sort of like, oh, something happened to the hero, or there's some big event that like triggering this. So that's a good point. Minara, welcome. Nisi, welcome. Oh, you actually finished your script on Monday. Awesome. Still focused on plotting a new story, writing from Hawaii. I feel like we all should be writing from Hawaii. That sounds wonderful, Nisi. Hope you have a good writing day today. Vampy from Vampy or Vampi. The double line, I think like vampire. I'm gonna go with Vampi. Hi from England. Working on a script for a fantasy animation with dark themes. Awesome. Paul in NorCal, working on a character pilot. Nisi keeps it minimal. The backstory flows better to reveal things. Keep it moving forward. Love it. Yan Jones, saw them late. Happy you're here. James has been saying backstory has been a bit of issue with mine as characters are a different generation and somewhat different backgrounds, but I'm factoring it into their odds of survival. Okay, so you kind of got some sort of survival thriller thing going on here. Yeah, I mean, it is there. I think it's also, the thing about backstory is you can reveal it in small doses. So like sometimes it might be relevant, but like I think oftentimes people can front load it. Like it's like, oh, yeah, we need to know all this stuff before the story can move forward. And oftentimes you can just reveal the information that is necessary kind of as you go. John in lovely New Jersey, the Garden State, working on a script about 2 teenagers having trouble writing dialogue from characters not from my generation. Oh, that's tricky. Yeah, I mean, I would say don't force it. There's a couple things. One, you can like kind of make up your own dialogue and slang a little bit, which is risky. I would say try not to just always go with like honesty. I don't know. Like I feel like in dialogue in some senses, just like go with the emotions of like what the characters are feeling. And like feel like that sort of emotional honesty in the dialogue is more important than like including slang. So yeah, I feel like it's just like what are they dealing with? How are they feeling about it? And that can be a really good signpost in terms of dealing with of dialogue. Cool guys. James was talking about legends. The legends I work with are more local stories on small lakes. The Dewey Lake Monster, which is a big inspiration while researching. Fun. I love it. That's great. So excited to see y'all here today. I think we were going to get some great writing done. So again, how this works is we're going to do 3 writing sprints. We're going to start off with a 15-minute writing sprint, which is like the chill kind of just introductory writing sprint. And yeah, just kind of like getting in the groove. And then we're going to take a little break, maybe answer some questions about screenwriting if you have any, at least 1 or 2 questions I saw in there that we can talk about. But if you have any others about screenwriting in general or something that's prompted by like what you're writing right now, you can ask that in the chat and I'll do my best to give you an answer. And then we'll do a 25-minute sprint, then take another break. And finally, we'll do, 20, 25-minute sprint. We'll see how much talking we do today, how much time we have at the end. But I don't know. I'm feeling not too chatty at the moment. I think I'm feeling righty. And I think we're going to get into the first sprint. Welcome, Sandra from Canada, finally in spring up there. That's worth a shout out. Spring in Canada. Working on a book. Fantastic. Well, fingers crossed. Hope that's go well. Welcome to the new people. Welcome to the second timers. Welcome to the third timers. And if you're a fourth timer, you get no welcome from me. Just kidding. I'm so glad you're here. All right. So I'm going to put the 15-minute timer up now. We're going to do the first writing sprint. I'm going to play some music and we're going to get into our creative flows. And then we'll come back after the break and we'll chat about how our writing went and what we're dealing with. And it's going to be awesome. So pull up your document in Arc Studio, or maybe you're writing by hand, your little journaling, whatever it is. Let's get into it, and I'll catch you guys all in about 15 minutes. So, all right. All right, and this brings us to the end of the first writing sprint, the 15-minute writing sprint. Welcome to everyone who joined during that sprint. This is Let's Write Scripts. We're doing 3 writing sprints. That was the first one. Let me know how it went. Are the muses with us today? How is your writing feeling? Are the words flowing from your fingertips? Are you struggling with anything particular? Any questions or you want to ask or advice you want or anything like that? Get in the chat and let me know. I want to know how that sprint went for you. It went well for me. I was just doing some smaller things at first, fixing some typos and stuff like that. I have so many typos lately. I was just talking to my wife about this, and I feel like I have just more and more typos like every year. I have a lot of typos because I'm also like a very verbal thinker. So like I'll just think of how the line sounds, but I'll use the wrong your and your or there, or sometimes I'll even do weird combinations where it's like I'll use 2 words that sort of sound like the third, like if it's walking, I'll write like walk in as 2 separate words, but my brain sees that as the same thing. Anyways, lots of typos. So I was fixing those and then getting into some more dialogue and some other kind of like ramping up towards like bigger issues. Yeah, so let me know how it went for you. Let me know if you have any questions. Just a quick announcement. Obviously, next week we have Let's Write Scripts. It is every Wednesday, or basically every Wednesday at 1 p.m. You can show up on the YouTube channel at 1 p.m. or you can RSVP at the link below, arcstudiopro.com/events. Obviously, this is put on by Arc Studio, the screenwriting software, which is what I'm using right now. And it's fantastic. And again, if you want to check out Arc Studio, there is a link in the description below. Barbara went by fast, slow start, but happy to have started. Yeah, you got to start somewhere. And the 15-minute warning, the 15-minute, man, I can't talk. The 15-minute writing sprint, again, it's like a warm-up. It's just like you're playing with house money. It's great. Kim, I'm highlighting the dialogue that seems weird and tightening what I can. I love that. Yeah, that's pretty great strategy to just sometimes, one, I like that in the two-step thing, sometimes just going through and just marking things, but staying in the flow and then coming back to it and kind of using that as a checklist. I think you can do that in a lot of different things, not just dialogue, but all sorts of things you read through and you just kind of mark, come back, this, and then the reading past, and then like the editing past is great. James doing outline a second draft, ended up being more of a research session, had some trouble coming up with revisions. Again, it's the warm-up sprint. Maybe some more ideas will come to you as we keep going. Donus Media, I think this is when I was talking about typos. I feel like it feels like a chimp did it when I frantically write my thoughts. Yeah, it's so interesting because like even sometimes my thoughts will get like 3 words ahead of what I'm writing, and then I'll go back and look at the sentence and I'll be like, I just missed like words in there. So, but always, get in the flow, and then you got to come back and revise it. Here's a good question. Let me see. I feel like I have a delay when I look at these comments. What prompted this? Did I say something crazy? Maybe I did. Juno's asking, okay, I decided to do some editing. How do you approach cutting out a script that's too long, like way too long? Have you ever turned one episode into 2 episodes? Sorry, DC. That's the sprint ending too fast. That's what said you what? Okay, fantastic. I'm like, oh my gosh, what did I say? All right, I decided to do some editing. Juno's question here. How do you approach cutting down a script that's too long, like way too long? Have you ever turned one episode into 2 episodes? I mean, you can do this. I think you have to go back though to the story level. Like, how many stories are you telling here? Is it 1 story or a 2 story? And like, yeah, sometimes you can have a 2-parter, but like, I feel like you still should have, you don't want to just like arbitrarily cut it in half. Like, it should have some sort of resolution or arc or twist or something happening at the point you're splitting it, if you do split it in half. But again, I would always go back and look, like, re-outline. That's what it is. Look at your story beats, write at everything, and then just like look at your story. Are there things in there that aren't relevant? Like, often sometimes we'll end up with long drafts because our story will be changing along the way. And so we're adding new things. But then we have these other things that are kind of remnants, you know, they're vestigial from past iterations, or things you thought were going to be an important to the story, but then they haven't. And so sometimes you can cut things. So always you can go back and like look at your story and look at your story beats and think like, are these leading together? Are these necessary? Are they one story, or is it kind of like, you know, going off a little bit? Is it lagging here? Do I need this? You can always like look at each kind of section or sequence or beat, however you like to think about it, and be like, if I cut this, would it change the story? You know? And if no, then like, you know, that could be a candidate for getting snipped out. There was another question earlier from Kim, who said, what are some next steps after you've completed your pilot aside from rewrites? Wondering what I could do aside from submitting it to contests. I mean, look, that's going to be the challenge. I can just give a quick kind of run through my thoughts on this. Generally on this, try to keep more to like the craft of writing versus the business, just kind of as the focus of this, because it's kind of what you can control in some senses. But I will say this. All right, first off, what do you mean by completed? Like, before you want people to read it, like it's got to be awesome. It's got to be sizzling. So getting feedback from people, if you can get it for free, great. If you have to pay for it and it's in your budget, you can do that. But just like really doing all the work you can. Like this pilot I've been working on, this is my like, how many drafts have I written here? 6th draft, I think. 7th. That was my 8th. I'm working on my like 8th draft, and some of those are bigger drafts and some are like smaller things. But like this is like, you know, like it's been working on for a long time. Like especially today, like your writing has to be very good. So that's like the main focus. And then the second part of like getting people to read it. Yes, there are contests, but you have to find ways to build relationships with people, and obviously that's going to depend where you are in the world, what you do for a living, all sorts of things. But you're just going to have to be putting in the work, because you definitely need to find people to read your script. I mean, I always say that a lot of this, you know, there are places like the Blacklist and stuff where you can like more discovery platforms. But a lot of success comes down to like getting people to read your script, having them be excited about it, and having them pass that over. So you have to be kind of building relationships, as you go. Let's see here. What else we got here? Hamla, when writing a pilot for a comedy episodic, do you have the whole season outlined or a good idea of it? Do you have a well thought out theme? So, I mean, there's different kinds of comedies. Like if you're, you know, doing like a classic sitcom, it's, you know, it's more about the setup, right? Because basically when you're writing a sitcom, you're kind of creating a formula in some sense that you're going to repeat, you know, like The Simpsons, Friends, Seinfeld, Everybody Loves Raymond, Cheers, to go back in the day, to like more modern stuff, Abbott Elementary, St. Dennis Medical, I think is the new one. Like all these things, basically you're setting up a scenario, a situational comedy, and then having that situation play out in different ways. So but then again, there's also other kinds of things that are like more episodic things that are called, or more not episodic, the opposite of episodic. I'm totally blanking on the word right now. Anyways, but like more of a season, you know, ongoing like series. Why can't I not think of this word? Anyways, for those, yeah, you need to know where the show's going. But if it's like a sitcom, it's more about creating that scenario that can be repeated over and over again. And for that, I always talk about like the fundamental disconnect, right? So like, what's the fundamental disconnect between what your character wants and the reality of their situation, of their world? That's going to repeat over and over again. Vampire, I've been outlining the key parts of my series. I hope to make it 4 to 5 seasons long, and I want it to flow perfectly. Are there any tips on writing a long series? Yeah, and it kind of connects to the thing I just said, which is you need to come up with a story engine or a central conflict that is going to keep going. It's what I'll call a chronic conflict. Basically, in television, you're creating a central problem that's going to spawn many problems moving forward. And so if you want your show to go on for 4 to 5 seasons, then you need to have the kind of conflict that is going to keep generating problems. So it's the kind of conflict that doesn't get resolved once, right? It's not like it gets resolved once and it's done. It's a thing that's just going to keep happening kind of again and again. And if you look at TV shows, you'll see elements of that to some extent, of like these things that are going, for some it's completely obvious, like a cop show or a lawyer show or a medical show, right? It's a new case, a detective show, like it's a new thing every week. Like that's the most obvious. But even for other ones, what you're having is some sort of situation the character is in where there is just going to be more problems being spawned from that over and over. Corey hasn't been here for a while. Yeah, I think everyone's doing well. I'm doing well. I got married in December, which most people know here, but maybe that's changed since you were here. I don't know when you were here last, Corey, and maybe you already knew that, but I will just say that. Yes, and vampire can be pronounced however you like, since it's made up word based on vampire. Well, because it's based on vampire, I'm going to go with vampire. That's what I think. Minaru, thanks for coming. She's heading out. See you later. Serialized storytelling was the word I was trying to get to. Thank you, Cash. I could not. I was thinking of episodic versus serialized. That's great. Okay. And Thea checking in, and Corey Kratz. I'm getting married. Thanks. Nisi, could you show how to make a new version of the script in Arc Studio so the edits are in a new version of the script? Well, you can do a new draft. I think that's what snapshots are for. That's how you can make a new draft, and then you have them all organized. So use the snapshots. This is a dope thing. Thanks. Awesome. I love Let's Write Scripts. This is one of my favorite things to do. Yeah, I am excited to be here talking writing with you guys every week. Yeah, I don't know. It's awesome. I love it. I love the energy. And we're going to get into the next writing sprint here pretty soon, because I've been chatting a little bit. So we're going to move on to the 25-minute writing sprint. We're warmed up a little bit, our brains. We've been thinking about our scripts. We've been thinking about screenwriting a little bit, and maybe some things that we were struggling with in the first one will unlock for us now. The muses will shower us with their favor. So I'm going to play some more music. I'm going to put the 25-minute timer up, and then we're going to come back and we're going to chat some more about screenwriting. So if you have any more questions, you can drop those in the chat, and I'll answer them in the next break. In the next break, I also show the sandwich of the week and an event announcement of another event that's coming up, a Q&A with a screenwriter that I'm really excited about next week. And I'll talk about that also after the break. So lots to look forward to. But I'm going to play the music now, put the timer up. I'm going to stop talking and start writing. So let's do it. 25-minute writing sprint. I'll catch you guys on the other side. And that was the sneakily quick ending of the second writing sprint here. Welcome to Let's Write Scripts. If you joined during that writing sprint, that was our second writing sprint again. We're going to do one more. How's it going? Let me know. Or did the muses show up on that sprint? Did they abandon you? How's the writing going? Any questions emerge? Anything you want to ask about? Drop it in the chat. I can answer some more screenwriting questions, get into some screenwriting topics. I'd love to hear how it's going for you and what you're dealing with. One quick announcement I wanted to make is that next week we're doing a special event, How to Write Sitcoms with Chris Harris. Chris is an awesome guy. He started out writing on the David Letterman show. He was an executive producer on How I Met Your Mother. He did the reboot of Frasier. He's done a lot of stuff. He was also my first boss. He hired me as a PA way back in the day. And I'm going to be talking to him about writing sitcoms. So check that out. It's next Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific. Of course, it'll be recorded on our YouTube channel after if you can't make it live. But if you want to RSVP for that, you can do so at arcstudiopro.com/events. And there is, of course, a link in the description for you to RSVP. So don't miss out on hearing from Chris. He is a pro. He's done so much. He's really awesome, too. So that's going to be next Thursday, 5 p.m. I'll be talking with Chris Harris. Yeah, so check that out. Okay, so Vamp had a question. I've drafted 2 versions of the first episode, and they both weigh heavy. So would it be better to start off with relevant backstory that sets up the series, or to go straight to the plot? This is a big thing. So I will just say what I think you should do also is go check out the pilot writing course I did for free. It's on YouTube here on the channel, or you can go to our Arc Studio blog, and there's 6 lessons like developing an idea, creating compelling characters, storytelling fundamentals, breaking your TV pilot story, writing the first draft of your pilot, and revising your pilot. And I think there's a lot of stuff in there that you find helpful. Again, there's also videos on this YouTube channel if you want to check that out. But this is kind of what I was saying. Basically, ideally, you're doing both. It's not just like backstory and then you start the plot. The backstory should be part of your story. You're telling a story, but you want to start off with something that's kind of like hooky. And oftentimes that can be some sort of event from the backstory, but I get way more into detail on how to do that in that pilot writing course. So I would recommend checking that out. Autumn Storyteller, good to see you. Thanks for joining here. James, that sprint went so much better. Finally, my way back into the story. I feel a bit better about the direction of the outline. Yeah, that was good for me too. I got into the zone. I was struggling with this line that was kind of like a pretty important line of dialogue. It was like right before the end of my opening. And it kind of like summed up the opening and launched us forward. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is very hard. And I think I finally cracked that. So James, glad that one was going well. Ooh, but not for Barbara. Barbara, it's going slow. I love that. Just like the highs and the lows, and then back up to the highs because Cash is doing well. So we are all over the place, which is pretty normal for writing. Ooh, James is saying, a problem I have is brainstorming in a way that feels authentic to the story. I'd be curious on how others tackle it. I mean, honestly, the characters, just like really try to think about what they're going through, how to react, what they need, what they're afraid of, what they want, and like have them pushing towards something, and that's so helpful. When I talk about character goals, those internal and external goals I was talking about earlier, like what do they want, why do they want it, and also think about complications and consequences, like when you're coming up with your plot. I always talked about using like but and therefore. So instead of saying like this happens and then this happens and then this happens, which is just like not really engaging, this happens, but this complication happens. Therefore, this other thing happens. It's a much more like dynamic and engaging way of like building your stories. Yeah. All right. Fantastic. So now I'm going to show you all. Yeah, it's time for the sandwich of the week, which every week I just show the best sandwich that I made this week. And look at this little beauty here in this little frame. Also, it's poppy season, and so that's exciting. I've got some California golden poppies with this ciabatta. And you can see there on the right a little bit of that salmon, leftover salmon, which has become now something I've been doing. I've been like dinner Micah the night before is restraining himself from eating all of his salmon, so that lunch Micah the next day can benefit and have a delicious sandwich on this ciabatta. There's a little olive oil, avocado, cheddar, greens, sun-dried tomatoes, lettuce, what else is in there? Stone ground mustard and mayo. And this was just like a good solid. This was like a definite like 8.5 to 9 out of 10 sandwich. Yeah, it's really good. I'm like become a bigger fan of the salmon on my sandwiches. So like, there we go. This is the sandwich of the week. I like, I hope it can inspire you to, if not right, then eat some food here. Salmon never lasts around here. Kudos on your self-control. I've been trying to be more of an adult, practice portion control, not just shove everything like this. I mean, it's also just like you get older. Like in my 20s, I would like, and like the way I feel like I was acculturated, is that a word? The way I was raised, it was just like you finish your plate, you eat everything, no matter what. And I'm trying to like not carry that forward. Like I used to always get the large, order that, eat everything, and I'm like, I don't need the large, I'm like, I don't need to stuff everything down my gullet. So trying to do that. Zooming in on that salmon texture, looks good. Color, yeah, it's like pretty good salmon. It's like salmon from the farmer's market. It's not like grocery store frozen salmon, which is like one of the things I like. It's my little splurge, like a little treat myself. And like, yeah, and salmon's so good for you. It's got them fatty acids. So there we go. Wow. That's the best sandwich I've ever seen. Well, stick around because like we have a lot of great sandwiches on Let's Write Scripts. I'm trying to feel like what's another good one. Oh yeah, look at that. This is wait, where'd this one go? That was a similar one. Yeah, this is another salmon on ciabatta from a few weeks ago. This one was the first time I'd done salmon, and that was like I think the greatest sandwich like I've ever eaten in my life. So we're looking at sandwiches, Sandwich Talk. That's the name of the spinoff show I'm gonna do. But all right, if there's anyone else have any questions, anything else they want to ask, feel free to drop that into the chat now before we move into the final writing sprint. Corey was asking how I feel about Walter Hill's writing style. I don't know if I have any strong opinions. I like The Driver. I know he's done a lot of stuff, but like he's not someone I think that like I don't necessarily have a strong opinion on his style. Corey, how do you feel about Walter Hill's writing style? That's what I'll ask. Turning back around. Oh my gosh. There's no sandwiches are exempt. They must be. They're precious. And I don't want to keeping other things out of this writing time and trying to keep focused in our happy creative zones here on Let's Write Scripts. All right. So yeah, let's do another sprint. We're going to do, I think, a 20-minute writing sprint here to finish things off. If you have to leave during this writing sprint, no worries. Thanks for coming. This is like definitely like a come in, drop in when you can. Oh, I'm trying to get this like timer lined up here. Come when you can, leave when you have to. I like this to just be part of your writing process, your writing schedule, your writing routine, and that you're writing throughout the week. We can come together and write together here on Wednesdays, but then the rest of the week, I hope you're all, making progress and making time for your creative practice. And if you have to leave, just say farewell. Let me know how it went. And I'll catch you next time. And if you hang around to the end, we'll say our final farewells. But I had a question here from Paula. Is there anything you would take into consideration for a limited series versus a sitcom that you want to go on for multiple seasons? Yes, a limited series is much more like a movie where you're telling one story. A sitcom that you want to go on for multiple seasons is like what I was talking about earlier when I was talking about creating a chronic conflict where you're not telling a limited series is telling one story. It's telling one story over multiple episodes. A sitcom, you are creating a scenario. You're creating a situation. That's why a sitcom is a situational comedy. You are creating the situation. You go back to like I Love Lucy. They're all the same thing. Lucy has this idea she gets very excited about because she wants something. She gets it over her head. Everything goes wrong. And then in the end, they love each other, right? Every episode of I Love Lucy is basically that. And you just do it over and over again. So you're trying to find out your situation, your scenario, your central conflict that can spawn dozens of problems. over and over again, because problems are where story comes from. When I say problems, what I mean is stories, because stories are how people deal with problems. So you kind of have a problem of the week, right? So it's a problem of the week, but it's often similar kinds of problems. It generally comes from a similar flaw in your protagonist, in most comedies, or a similar what I call, again, the fundamental disconnect between what the character wants and the reality of their situation, of the reality of their world. So that's what I would think about in terms of in terms of that. One more question here. How do you personally divvy up page count for each act in a half-hour show? I don't think about page count really at all. I mean, so traditionally, like, act breaks were a bigger thing, because like act breaks came from commercials, right? Like that's where the commercials were. That's where you had the act break. So, but if you're asking like formula or go by feel, I mean, honestly, like the best way to learn that kind of thing for like whatever half-hour show you're doing is to look at examples of shows and like how do they structure them. And yeah, where are the act breaks? How long do they put in each act break? Mostly I go by feel, though, to be honest. I don't really think about, especially for half hour. Actually for either. I don't know. Mostly I go for feel. I'm not like, I'm not really a page count formula sort of structure person. I'm much more of a feel person. Yeah. All right. Here. So, but now I said we were going to do the last sprint. So we actually are going to do the sprint. I'm going to put the timer on 20 minutes. Let's lock in, focus in on our scripts or novels or whatever we're writing here today. Give it our consideration, and then you can go about the rest of your day knowing that, hey, you made time for your creative practice, for your writing. So good for you. So here we go. 20 minutes on the clock. Sorry, y'all. I was writing. I don't know how long, how long was I out? I feel like I was in a fugue state. That was it. We're done. Yeah, that was our third writing sprint. This has been Let's Write Scripts. I have been and continue to be Micah Craddy, the head of writing at Arc Studio. I hope you had a great time today. I hope you got some writing done, maybe learned some stuff. Just, I don't know, enjoyed letting your creative ponies run wild. on the planes of your imagination. Yeah, I'll be back next week for Let's Write Scripts, same time, Wednesdays, 1 p.m. Pacific. And next Thursday on the 17th at 5 p.m. Pacific, we have that How to Write Sitcoms event with Chris Harris, really experienced showrunner, executive producer, who wrote on How I Met Your Mother and Late Show with David Letterman. He did the reboot of Frasier. He's done so many sitcoms, so much great stuff. I mean, Letterman's not a sitcom, but still comedy writing. But yeah, so I hope you can make that. You can RSVP using the link below or go to arcstudiopro.com/events. Anyways, just have a great rest of the week, and try to do some writing if you can. Maybe do some reading too. Watch something great. Try to read some scripts. Reading scripts is, I should suggest that more. Try to read some scripts. Read some scripts for some movies you love or some things that are very close for you. And all right, man. I don't know, say all right, man. It's all you guys. Thanks so much for being here. It's been awesome. Be kind to yourselves and happy writing. I'll catch y'all later.